You feel a calling, but fear paralyzes you. You feel something different in your body, you sense energies in the air, you hear your name silently, and no one prepared you for this. Being a medium in Umbanda does not begin with applause, it begins with doubts. With tremors. With the spiritual world knocking on your door, without warning. Most videos out there only talk about the beauty of incorporation, the light of the guides, and the axe in the terreiro. But no one tells you what happens before that. The fear of the unknown. The weight of the first manifestations. The sleepless nights. The feeling that you're going crazy. This video is to show you what no one has the courage to say. And at the same time, to offer you support, guidance, and hope. Because the path of the medium can be challenging, but it also transforms. Stay with me until the end, because today we will walk side by side through this journey, from fear to surrender, from doubt to acts, from insecurity to incorporation. And who knows, you may discover that you are already more prepared than you imagine. If you have already felt this calling or are looking for answers, leave your like, subscribe here on the Guerreros do Axe channel and come with us on this journey. Topic 1. The spiritual call, when Umbanda knocks on your door. Some people feel it from childhood. Others only feel it later, after a loss, an illness, or a life-changing event. The spiritual calling has no set time, and it rarely comes clearly. In Umbanda, it often comes as a restlessness, a feeling that there is something more happening beyond what meets the eye. You feel that you are not alone, that there is an energy nearby, something wanting to manifest itself, but you don't know exactly what. This calling can appear in many ways: recurring dreams with entities, premonitions, unexplained chills, internal voices, images that appear out of nowhere, or even a sudden desire to seek out a terreiro, even without having ever set foot in one before. For some, it comes as emotional pain, depression, anxiety, a void that nothing can fill. And then, in the midst of this whirlwind, the question arises, could I be a medium? This doubt is the first step. Because no one teaches this in school, and often, not even the family has the knowledge or openness to deal with the subject. Umbanda, despite being a welcoming religion, is still viewed with prejudice. So those who feel the call often walk alone in the first moments. That is when fear, confusion, and the fear of making something up arise. But the call is real. And anyone who has experienced it knows, when it arrives, there is no way to ignore it. It is as if something inside you starts to beat differently. Your heart beats faster when you hear an Adabak drum. A tear falls for no reason when you see an entity being incorporated. And even without understanding anything, you feel that it has to do with you. This is when many people ask themselves, could it just be an impression? Or, what if I'm deluding myself? But the more you try to rationalize, the more evidence accumulates. Small signs appear in your daily life. Words you've never heard before begin to appear in your mind. Entities you didn't know before seem to call you by name. It's not madness. It's mediumship awakening. This moment is sacred, because it is the birth of a new spiritual consciousness. It is as if the guides are knocking on the door of your soul, waiting for you to say, yes, I am ready. But no one is truly ready. And that is okay. Umbanda is a path, it is construction. The call does not demand perfection, only sincerity. Many people ignore this calling out of fear. And that is also understandable. Accepting that you are a medium is accepting a mission, a responsibility. And most importantly, accepting that your life will change. It will gain meaning. But it will also require commitment. It will take you out of your comfort zone. So if you feel that something is awakening within you, listen. Pay attention to the signs. Talk to someone you trust. Look for a serious spiritual center, study, observe. The first step is not incorporation. It is listening. Listening to what spirituality wants to tell you. What about you? Have you ever felt this calling? How was it? Share your experience, doubts, or vision about this special moment in the comments. Let's exchange experiences and grow stronger together. Topic 2. Fear, doubts, and the feeling of being lost. After the call comes silence. and in that silence lies fear. This is where many beginner mediums feel completely lost. Because there is no ready-made manual. There are no clear rules. And worse, sometimes there is no one to talk to. It is as if you were crossing a bridge in the dark, taking one uncertain step at a time, feeling everything around you, but unable to see anything clearly. It is very common for the first symptoms of active mediumship to be accompanied by mental confusion, extreme fatigue, insomnia, strange sensations in the body, and an intense emotional burden. And then comes the fear. Am I getting sick? Am I going crazy? It is natural for this doubt to arise, because in the rational world we live in, we have not been taught how to deal with the invisible, much less with the sacred that moves within us. Some people start to isolate themselves. They stop talking about what they are feeling. They pretend that nothing is happening. They try to return to their normal routine, but the spiritual call does not recede. It just changes. That which is not addressed intensifies. And what was just an inconvenience becomes an internal cry. A cry from the soul asking for direction. Many end up seeking doctors, psychologists, therapies, and in some cases, this is indeed necessary and complementary. But when the root is spiritual, the answer needs to come from spirituality. It is also at this time that judgments arise. Families who do not believe, friends who mock, religious people who demonize. The person who is awakening to their mediumship often faces all of this alone. And this can hurt deeply. It can create blockages, traumas, shame. How many mediums have kept quiet for fear of being rejected? How many carry repressed gifts because they do not feel accepted? In Umbanda, mediumship is seen as a mission, but also as a learning experience. And no one is born ready. Even the great mediums, leaders and holy fathers/mothers went through this dark tunnel of fear and doubt. The difference is that they kept walking. Even with butterflies in their stomach. Even trembling inside. And that is what differentiates those who hear the call from those who live the call. It is important to understand that feeling fear is not a weakness. It is part of the process. It is fear that makes us human. It is fear that reveals how much this journey matters to us. But this fear only dissolves through experience. When you start meeting other mediums, hearing stories similar to yours, participating in rituals, studying spirituality, then fear begins to give way to clarity. This period is also marked by many questions. Is this really it? What if I'm wrong? Will I be able to incorporate? What if I'm not chosen? These are questions that everyone has asked at some point. Umbanda does not demand absolute certainties. It welcomes those who come with sincere questions. It is precisely at this moment that you need to look for a serious house, with a responsible leader, someone who sees you as a being in development, and not as someone ready to serve. A true terreiro will help you to embrace your doubts, your fears, your failures. Because everyone there has also been through this. Finally, know this: fear is just a portal. Behind it, there is a spiritual connection that can transform your entire life. But to do so, you need to take a step. Even if you tremble. Even if your heart races. Because, as an old guide says, it is in fear that courage begins. Have you ever been through this moment of doubt and fear? How did you deal with it? Leave your story or question in the comments. It could help a lot of people who are also going through this tunnel right now. Topic 3. First contact with the terreiro and the breaking of expectations. After so much feeling, questioning and resisting, the moment comes when something inside you says, go. And you go. You step foot in a terreiro for the first time. Your heart races, your hands sweat, your eyes curious. The sound of the drums echoes in your chest. The smell of the smoker invades your soul. The voices and the chants seem to recognize something in you, and your body responds. It's as if everything was waiting for you, but at the same time, nothing was as you imagined. Most people arrive at the terreiro with ideals. They think they will find a supernatural light, an entity that speaks to them right away, a divine revelation on the very first day. But what they find is a simple ritual, a humble environment, brothers in white and silence, and a time that seems to pass differently. Umbanda, unlike what many people think, is not in a hurry. It does not shout. It welcomes. And in this welcoming, sometimes the ego becomes frustrated. The first contact can also generate a certain strangeness. Am I in the right place? Why does everyone seem to know what to do and I don't? What will they think of me? These questions are common and human. Everyone who arrives for the first time has felt this. But little by little, as the sessions go by, you begin to realize something deeper. That space is not there to impress. It is there to heal. And to teach you, in due time. Another important point in this beginning is the attitude of the terreiro. Unfortunately, not all places welcome new mediums with the necessary care. There are houses that force incorporations, that expose beginners, that impose hierarchies without dialogue. That is why it is essential to observe, feel and, above all, talk to the spiritual leader. A good terreiro is one that respects your time. That does not pressure you, but also does not let you loose. That walks with you. On the other hand, when the terreiro is serious, well-run and truly based on the principles of Umbanda, it becomes a true spiritual womb. A space of rebirth. With each session, you will become familiar with the rituals, the points, and the entities. Start to realize that what seemed strange actually affects you in a very intimate way. The energy of the old black man, the vibration of a caboclo, the swing of the pambajira, all of this begins to talk to parts of you that were dormant. It is also during this phase that you may begin to notice small signs during the sessions: dizziness, sudden hot flashes, the urge to cry, the urge to laugh for no reason, or an urge to move differently. These signs are not in your head. They are subtle manifestations of mediumship. The body begins to respond to the vibratory field. And spirituality shows that it is there, feeling you, listening to you, preparing you. But it is important to say, not everyone embodies in the first, 5th, or 10th round. And this is not a defect. It does not mean that you have less gift, or that you are blocked. Mediumship has its own time. What delays development the most is precisely anxiety. The best thing to do in the beginning is to observe, learn, trust and surrender. Over time, you will realize that the terreiro is not just a magical place, it is a mirror. There, everything that is inside you comes to the surface. Your wounds, your traumas, your fears, your energies. It is a space where the sacred is not above, it is beside. Guides and children walking together. Making mistakes, getting things right, evolving. That's why the first contact with the terreiro is a milestone. Not because it changes everything at once, but because it plants a seed. And if well cared for, this seed grows. And becomes a root. And becomes a flower. And one day, you realize, that place that once seemed strange, has become home. And what about you? How was your first time at an Umbanda temple? Did you feel welcomed or strange? Leave your story here in the comments. It may calm the hearts of those who haven't yet had the courage to take the first step. Topic 4. The first manifestations, tremors, crying, emotions on the surface. After some time attending the terreiro, feeling the vibration of the sessions, listening to the points and observing the spiritual work, an inevitable moment arrives for those who have mediumship of incorporation. The body begins to speak. And sometimes, it speaks louder than the mind. What seemed distant begins to become intimate. What was invisible begins to materialize, in the form of tremors, chills, goosebumps, crying, dizziness, yawning or an overwhelming emotion that comes from nowhere and dismantles you inside. This phase usually comes as a surprise. Because even those who are expecting the incorporation do not know what it will be like when it arrives. The body reacts as if it were being traversed by something that does not come from outside, but from within. It is as if an old memory is activated. Something dormant awakens. And the ground, which was previously firm, shakes. Some mediums feel like they are floating. Others feel their knees weaken. There are those who feel energy accumulating in the solar plexus, who feel their heart racing or their arms moving without control. And then two intense feelings arise, deep emotion and fear. Yes, even after accepting the call and feeling welcomed in the terreiro, fear still appears. Because the feeling of losing control, is scary. The rational mind tries to resist. Is this all in my head? What if I'm just imitating others? Is it really a guide manifesting in me? These thoughts are common, and they are part of life. The important thing is not to judge yourself, because every developing medium goes through this place of insecurity. This is when the terreiro makes all the difference. An experienced leader, upon noticing that a medium is beginning to manifest, guides calmly, welcomes, and transmits security. There is no rush. The spiritual guide also knows how to wait for the child's time. The first manifestations tend to be light, fragmented, almost like a rehearsal for incorporation. And everything is fine that way. The important thing is the process, building trust between the medium, the guide, and the spiritual environment. Many mediums report that during their first manifestations, they feel an overwhelming urge to cry. And they don't know why. This happens because the guide's energy, when it approaches, activates deep emotions that were stored away, traumas, hurts, pain. The guide, even before working for others, begins working within you. It's healing. It's cleansing. It's reunion. So, if you feel like crying, cry. If you feel like laughing, laugh. If you want to step back for a breath, do so. Umbanda doesn't demand perfection, it demands truth. Another common sign is the body starting to make spontaneous movements, rocking back and forth, opening the arms, stepping firmly on the ground, turning. These gestures are the body's responses to the entity's approach. The guide's body language begins to manifest itself, even before the person speaks. And it is at this moment that many mediums realize, I'm not pretending. This is really happening. And along with this realization comes relief and commitment. It is also important to talk about respecting one's own limits. No medium should force themselves to incorporate, nor give in to the impulse to please the terreiro or the leader. Each person has their own unique time, and this needs to be respected. Excessive anxiety can block the process. In this case, rushing does not help, it hinders. Therefore, it is essential to work on self-knowledge, discipline, patience, and, above all, faith. Over time, these first manifestations become clearer, stronger, more conscious. The guide begins to descend more firmly. The body learns to recognize the vibration, and confidence grows. The medium learns that incorporation is not a trance outside of reality. It is a fusion of conscious energies. It is surrender with lucidity. It is communion between two worlds. And this, when it happens, is indescribable. Those who have already embodied know, there is a deep peace at this moment. In inner silence, even with the terreiro in motion. A feeling of being in the right place, doing what you came to do. And it is at this moment that you understand, everything you have experienced up until now, the fear, the doubt, the confusion, was worth it. What about you? Have you ever experienced any of these manifestations? Are you in this phase now? Share in the comments how your process has been. This can help a lot of people who are recognizing themselves at this exact moment. Topic 5. The journey of development, discipline, surrender, and transformation. Once mediumship begins to manifest itself more clearly, a new stage begins, the journey of development. And here a lot changes. What was once a mystery now becomes practical. What was intuition becomes responsibility. And what was merely feeling becomes service. Being a medium is not just about incorporation, it is about constantly preparing yourself to be a clean, lucid, and balanced channel of spirituality. This phase requires more than just attending the sessions. It requires commitment to one's own growth. Mediumship is a gift, yes, but it is also a work tool. And like any instrument, it needs to be tuned. This means taking care of one's energy, keeping one's mind healthy, seeking self-knowledge, and respecting the limits of one's body and soul. Many mediums become frustrated because they are unable to embody regularly or because they feel like they are stagnant. But almost always, the key is self-care. Mediumistic development is a process that involves time, patience, and repetition. It is during the sessions that the medium learns, makes mistakes, adjusts, and improves. Each entity has its own vibration, a way of manifesting itself, a rhythm. the medium needs to tune into it. This only happens through coexistence, dedication, and, above all, humility. A medium who thinks he or she is too ready runs the risk of stagnating. On the other hand, one who recognizes that he or she is always learning advances steadily. Another fundamental point of this journey is spiritual discipline. And this does not mean rigidity, but consistency. Being present at the sessions, taking care of your own energy on a daily basis, avoiding excesses, keeping your mind balanced. Umbanda does not demand holiness, but it does demand awareness. The medium cannot be a channel of light in the temple and shadow in everyday life. The guide's energy needs to find a clean space within you. And this is built every day, through small choices. From the moment the medium begins to incorporate more confidently, the service stage also begins. The entities begin to assist people, give advice, and perform healing passes. And then the medium discovers the true meaning of mediumship, to help. Each service is a mirror. Each consultation is a learning experience. And it is at this moment that you realize that, by giving of yourself, you are also being healed. The guide works, but the child also receives. It is at this point that the transformation is consolidated. Because mediumship begins to change not only the sessions, but life. The medium becomes more sensitive in relationships, more empathy, more perception. You begin to identify when you are being invaded by energies that are not yours. You learn to protect yourself, to position yourself, to remain silent when necessary. Develop a deeper listening to life and spirituality. Of course, not everything is rosy. There are days of tiredness, of imbalance, of doubt. There are times when it seems like nothing is working, that the guide has moved away, that the mediumship has disappeared. But these are just phases. Every spiritual journey has cycles. And it's important to remember, the guide never abandons you. But sometimes, he keeps quiet so that his son can learn to walk on his own 2 feet. Over time, the medium begins to understand that he is not just lending his body to an entity. He is, in fact, becoming an instrument of something greater. A link between worlds. And this brings a deep sense of meaning. Because even in difficult times, there is purpose. And that is enough. There comes a time when the terreiro is no longer just a place, it is a spiritual home. The entities are no longer just guides, they are companions on the journey. And you, who began full of fear, now walk with firmness, even knowing that there is still much to learn. Because now you no longer walk alone. Now you serve the light. And in your journey, where do you feel you are? Are you just starting out, or are you already more firmly incorporated? Tell us in the comments. This could inspire a lot of people who are a step behind, looking to you as an example. From medium in awakening to sun on the path. Being a medium in Umbanda is not about wearing white and waiting for the guide to come down. It is being born again, from within. It is crossing fear with courage, embracing doubt with faith, and walking even when the road seems invisible. From the first shiver to the first incorporation, from the unexplained crying to the trust built day after day, a medium's journey is one of the most beautiful and challenging spiritual experiences that someone can live. It's not easy, but it's deeply transformative. Because every step in the terreiro is a step towards yourself. And each guide that manifests is a mirror of your own evolving essence. The truth that no one tells you, and that you now know, is that mediumship is a calling from the soul. And only those who have the courage to look at themselves, heal themselves and surrender themselves will respond to it. If you have come this far in this video, perhaps this calling is also yours. And if so, know that you are not alone. Did you like this video? Then leave your like, share with those who are also on this journey and subscribe to the Warriors of Axe channel to continue receiving content like this. And more, click on the card that will appear here on the screen to watch our next video, where we will talk about how the process of mediumistic development works within a terreiro, step by step, from the first session to working firmly with the guides. This could be the next step on your journey.